my decision to join the Marine Corps was to get the GI Bill because I'd blown the scholarship, and I started college, and I felt really guilty that my mother was working hard every day, and, you know, they weren't making a lot of money and putting me through school when I could have done this on my own, and I blew it. So I said, no, I have to take the responsibility.
And which college was this?
The first
You had
one,
started, yes.
San Francisco City.
Okay.
And then I dropped out. And so I joined the Marine Corps to get the GI Bill. That's how I went in. And it was on that basis. So I get in the Marine Corps, and for me, for a lot of people, that may not have worked out. But for me, I learned discipline. It was the first time that I was away from home. I was forced to be on my own. I was forced to survive on my own. I had to learn rules and regulations on my own. I had to be able to negotiate on my own. And so it was forced me to become self-reliant because it was tough. But getting through boot camp was very valuable to me because it changed the perception of how I saw myself. Whatever the training was, I know when I came back home to West Oakland, guys that I would walk several blocks out of the way to because I didn't want to encounter them, I was no longer fearful. I was a Marine. I was trained to fight, you know what I mean? So it gave me a stronger sense of who I was as a person, etc. And I remember in basic training, my drill instructor, who was an African-American staff sergeant, he called me in his office and he said, there are two guys down at Quonset Hut, A or B or whatever it is. They came to interview you for Officers Candidate School. Now, this was 1954. I had never seen a black officer in my life. I'd only read in the Negro Digest or whatever, B.O. Davis and, you know, these black generals. But I had never actually physically laid my eyes on a black officer. And so I'm running down to this Quonset and I'm thinking, wow, man, they're going to interview me for Officers Candidate School. I'm going to become an officer, okay? My mother's going to be proud of me. This is my way out, right? So I get down to the Quonset Hut and I banged on the door. Sir, Private Dellums reporting his orders, sir. Get in here, lad. I walked in, stepped. The two white guys were down at the end of the Quonset Hut, sitting behind a desk. And I walked up to them, snapped to attention smartly, and reported. Private Dellums reporting his orders. Sir, stand at ease, lad. So I stood at ease. And this one guy looked at me, and he looked down at the piece of paper. And he looked back at me, and he looked down again. And he handed over. The other guy looked at it and looked up at me, and he said, what race are you, lad? Well, then, 1954, we were Negroes. And my parents always said, emphasize Negro, not Negro. Okay? So I stood at attention. Sir, I'm a Negro, sir. The guy said, that's what I thought, son. Get on back to your outfit. Summarily dismissed me. I stepped back, did a smart about face, and shagged out. So when I get out and I'm on my way back to my outfit, and I'm thinking, it was obvious that they were surprised that I was a brother. But why did they call me in? It didn't add up. Well, later that when I went back, and later my staff sergeant Allen called me in, and I told him. He said, well, what happened? And I told him that they asked me what race was I, and I told him, and they dismissed me. So then he called me in later that evening, and he said, I'll tell you what happened. I said, well, he said, when they filled out the application, you know, there are hundreds of guys standing in line, you know, because being in the military is hurry up and wait. Well, somebody was typing, and they cut off all your hair when you first go in.
Yes.
Bald-headed. So I was just fair-skinned with no hair. And so the guy just looked up, and he wrote Ronald V. Dellums, 1505605, race, Caucasian. So the two guys came to interview Ronald V. Dellums, Caucasian, who had college prep, a brief stint in college and who passed the test higher than anybody in my training. I got the highest score of anybody in my training battalion. The only difference was I wasn't white. And so I was summarily dismissed, right? And so I finished the Marine Corps, as I said, without becoming an officer. So I got out in '56, but it gave me the GI Bill. And when I came back home, by that time I had gotten married and had started a family, and I was way too young, but that was what it was. So I decided that, I was going to make something out of myself as a husband and as a father. And so I started community college. It was then junior college, Oakland Junior College. I went there for 2 years. I got an AA degree. Then I transferred to San Francisco State for 2 years. I got a BA degree. And then someone said, you ought to go to graduate school. I never quite thought about that, so I applied to the University of California in my senior year, and I was accepted in the summer. I was totally overwhelmed that I actually finally did get to University of California, and I spent 2 years there, and I got a master's degree in psychiatric social work, and had great dreams of being the Black Sigmund Freud of America. And but I went 6 years, and three degrees and 2 years at each campus. And the Marine Corps was, for me, an opportunity to gain self-reliance, an opportunity to gain discipline and focus, and to gain a greater sense of myself, greater confidence in who I was as a person. So it contributed to that, and it also gave me an opportunity to go to college.
So you must have felt that you needed to do all of these things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because in part I was driven by the fact that I had let my parents down, and I needed to find a way to pay them back. And the Marine Corps gave me the vehicle. And then somewhere along the way, as I was going to college, I realized that I was not going to college for my mother nor my father. I was going to college for myself.
That's right.
And that's when I fell in love again with the whole idea of learning. And because I've always been excited about learning. And I guess I got that from both of my parents.
That's right, yeah.